So
Yeah.
a lot of things are happening, and we're gonna like steer away from like the basketball. We're gonna talk the basketball politics. Like our basketball brothers out there are reacting to what happened in Capitol Hill, the riots. You had Doc Rivers say that if there were black people, we would be dead. You had LeBron come out and speak out. Jalen Brown, Greg Popovich standing up, speaking for the brothers. How do you guys feel when you see them speak out? And what does that mean to you, Jalen?
I have mixed emotions. And the reason I have mixed emotions is when when George Floyd died, we saw all around the world everybody take a knee
Was
and
murdered.
show us. Sorry, correct. When he was murdered, we saw everybody take a knee in solidarity to show that Black Lives Matter. I don't agree with them taking a knee right now. The reason I don't agree with them taking a knee is because at a time like this, when when it's clear division, we're showing that we're giving attention to the bigots and the hypocrisy of America. It's For me, it's mixed emotions because I have a lot of my Canadian friends saying, "I'm so glad we live in Canada." Like that wouldn't happen in Canada. I have mixed emotions because I know wholeheartedly and unequivocally, and we saw firsthand that when Black, Hispanic, whatever the color may be, people of color protest, just protest, not riot, protest. They are hit with rubber bullets, they are hit with tear gas, um, they are killed, trampled, kidnapped, assaulted, treated like dogs when they're protesting something that is actually worth protesting for. And we saw I'm not gonna call what happened on Capitol Hill a protest because they're they're legitimately mad because their candidate lost. Um, which is ironic because they're literally riding over democracy when
They're labeled as terrorists. That was a terrorist attack.
Yo,
yeah,
100%.
it's domestic
That's it.
terrorism.
Let's call it what it
It's a
But
is.
terrorist attack.
but at the end of the day, I'm upset because I myself have been a victim of racial profiling, as you know, I know all of us in this Zoom call have. And I'm upset because I know that my brothers and sisters, I know that I have a little brother, I have a little sister. If they were in that same situation, I don't know what would happen to them. I know that multiple, one woman was killed. Um, I know that there are multiple videos of people being helped down. The lady with fake tears, with the onion in her towel, trying to produce fake tears. Um, and it makes me sick to my stomach that we still have people who question um, what is wrong with society, that there's no need for change. And it's it hurts to know that my sister is 2 months away from getting her full license. Um, and she is a national level taekwondo athlete. Um, she travels to and from taekwondo literally every single day. She's number 4 ranked in Canada, which means she trains every day. So she's driving at all different hours of the night, to go to and from training. Um, I'm worried sick. I know I'm gonna be worried sick because I know at any point, just because a police officer feels like it, he can pull her over, and I don't know what's gonna happen. I've had multiple of my white female friends get out of get out of situations, get out of tickets, and get out of circumstances that they were in fact guilty, whether they were speeding, whatever the case may be. I'm not gonna snitch, but
The man,
I'm
the
not
man
gonna
hit
snitch.
yo.
I'm not gonna release that
Sticky
information.
Trying to
to
be
But
goes.
serious. The man hit out the eye, and I'm not going to snitch.
but I know that they got out of certain situations because the cop felt bad for them, and felt they were innocent. They were just innocent little girl, innocent little child. I know my sister won't be afforded that same luxury. I know that these riots, these acts of domestic terrorism that we saw today, and the reactions of the incitement of violence from the president, um, is not just a sentiment shared by him. It's a sentiment shared by the vast majority of Americans, but also Canadians. Um, if you if your response to Black Lives Matter is all lives matter, that's a problem. Because people confuse the slogan, and although I don't agree with the organization of Black Lives Matter, um, the slogan is what, when I say it, that's what I mean. Black Lives Matter. People misconstrue, and I know I'll try and keep it quick. I'll wrap it up here, but people misconstrue the slogan. Black Lives Matter doesn't mean Black lives are the only lives that matter. It doesn't mean that Black lives matter, white lives don't. Black lives matter, Asian lives don't. It just means that right now we are seeing systemic pillaging of our people, whether it's on the education front, whether it's on the police front, um, community outreach. The systems that are in place do not treat us the same as they do our white counterparts. And this was, and we saw the most blatant evidence of that in these Capitol Hill riots. So when I look at the NBA and them taking a knee in response to it, I don't like it because it gives them power and it gives them a little bit of validity. It gives them another conversation because we saw, and I'll end on this. We saw there was a photo that I saw where it was a mob of them that were hovering over a police officer beating him. And I found it ironic because I thought blue lives matter. And I thought the issue, I apologize. I thought they didn't have a problem with the police. I thought it was a problem with I thought it was a problem with the system. So for me, this is tough, man. Especially as I'm going to be a father. I apologize for going on a soliloquy like that, but that's how I feel, man.
Yeah,
Eloquently stated.
yeah. That's why I can't, like, when someone's talking about something like that, I can't even cut it off. Like, these are issues that, like, we face every day, and like some of the things that you said, like, obviously, like, we know what it's like to be stopped for no reason. Um, like, I sit here thinking about, like, a lot of the things you said, and, like, I worry about each and every one of you just being out. We a family. So
Like like being I ask you multiple times a week, yo, how often you get stopped? How often
yo,
you get stopped now that the curfew's in place? I just asked you this yesterday.
yeah,
Or the day
exactly,
before, or the day before, my apologies. How
yeah,
often you get stopped as a black man in Montreal driving late at night
yeah.
with, I'm
I,
sure, thousands of dollars of equipment in the car?
yeah, I've gotten stopped in, like, company vehicles and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So for me, that's the whole thing with like the curfew. Like I done a story on it, and like black mothers are like worried about like their children because like it just comes with it. We get stopped for no reason, and then you put in place something that we can get stopped even more. It's just like it's a scary thought, you know. Um, you think about what happens when black people get stopped, and like, yo, I get nervous when I get stopped. Straight up, I get stopped, and I'm like, I'm not comfortable. I like, I like low key panic. I don't show it, but I panic because like at the end of the day, I'm like, yo, what's really gonna happen here? You know, and I don't want to think like that, but it's the reality of what we face. You know what I mean? Like I can't not explain it. It's just a feeling I have. Like I'll be like a cop will be behind me and then pull me over for absolutely no reason.
You get tense.
Yeah, I get tense up. I tense up. I'm like,
You turn the music down. You take off
yeah,
your hat.
everything, bro. And then like I'm just like, yo, are you like trying to apprehend me? Like I don't know what is going to happen. So yeah, man, it's a scary thought. Mukhtar, what do you make of what happened at Capitol Hill, and how does it resonate with you and being like a black man in Canada?
Just there's a quote. Jalen Brown said something, and I think it's very important to like. I think it's very important for our viewers to hear it. He said, "There's two split different Americas. In one America, you can get killed by sleeping in your car, selling cigarettes, or playing in your backyard. In another America, you can storm the Capitol, no tear gas and no massive arrests." We saw during the Jacob Blake protests and riots. We saw during the Black Lives Matter protests this summer. People were getting arrested. People were getting beaten by cops. Our the president of the United States was tweeting that these hooligans and thugs need to be arrested and put in place. And then now you just see the cops just allow these people just to walk into their capital and go ahead and vandalize it and do whatever they want. And it's just they go ahead scot free. It's confusing, you know. Like I'll take it back to like the Mike Brown protests when a young man Mike Brown got killed with his hands up in the air by the police. There are riots and protests in Louisiana, and a few people got arrested from those riots, and they got 8 years, 10 years in prison. And now these people in the Capitol getting 1 year sentences, 2 year sentences. So if you don't see the two different Americas here, I don't know what you're looking at. It's very clear one race is being targeted. And it's not just one race, it's all minorities are being targeted. And it's unfair. It's so sad to see. Like I'm so young. I shouldn't like I'm 22 years old. Like this shouldn't be like my reality. But unfortunately, like the guy that was president the last 4 years made it comfortable for racists to come out of the closet. And he motivated them to come out on all four fronts and use their voice. And he gave them a voice. And now they're here unfiltered and they think they can do whatever they want. They just ran into the Capitol and now like they think they're victims. Like how crazy is that? So yeah, like honestly, I have a younger brother, 10-year difference. He's my little brother. Like I've raised him. It's crazy. Like I can't believe like this is what he sees. It's not right. So I'm just praying and hoping for a better world. We're all the same people. Nobody should be treated different than any other. It's just sad that like we have this lens on us that's like it's associated with negativity, but it's like what? I'm just the same as you. We'll breathe the same oxygen as you. It makes no sense.
Eloquently stated.
Yo, Perry, the floor is yours.
I'm gonna start this off with a quote from Kanye West, and he said, "Racism's still alive. They just be concealing it." And I'm gonna give one more quote from W.E.B. Du Bois, and he says, "The problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line." JLo, you said something. I disagree with it, not because I think you're wrong, but because I saw it from a different perspective. So I want to thank you for bringing it up. And I think the knee is necessary. The knee is necessary because we don't live in two Americas. We're just two people. We are the black person who is hunted for the color of their skin, targeted by a bunch of situations and profiled by police. And we are citizens, expected to conform with Canadian standards or American standards and things of that sort. When I was in kindergarten, I didn't have friends for the first 2 years of my kindergarten days. And when I tried to hop in games of tag and things of that sort, I was isolated. And the reason why was that I'm, quote, black. I was first called the N word by my kindergarten teacher, who then told me that I was never going to learn at the pace of the other kids. I've been profiled by the police where all of my friends have been, well, not necessarily pulled over. Like we've just been walking down, and for some random reason, I was the one who was targeted in some sort of search. So when I see situations such of this sort, I have no faith in America. We are the only people who, with a straight face, can have someone enter one of our places of worship, shoot up, and be taken to McDonald's. We are the only people who we're getting killed like dogs, like animals. We're not treated as human beings. The storming of the Capitol, it showed us that racism is alive. I've been told on plenty of occasions, go back to your country. Yet I was born here. I've been told on multiple occasions that I'm worthless because of the color of my skin. My mother worries every day when I leave the house. Obviously, she's a mother, but she knows. My brother, I'm terrified for because he might get into not an altercation, but something may happen where a police officer pulls him over and boom, right there. So situations like this, obviously, I believe we're strong people, not because we want to be, but because we have to be. We're the people who walked past as Emmett Till was beaten to death for whistling at a girl. We're the people who
Allegedly.
allegedly whistling, and she confessed that it was false. We're the
A
people
false
who were
statement. Yep.
given fair trials, yet we hold the record of having the youngest child in the electric chair who physically was incapable of committing certain crimes, but he was the youngest in America to have been killed. We're people who have cartoons drawn about us of our children being fed to alligators. Racism has been alive. It's alive. It will be alive. I lost all faith in America after Trayvon Martin's killing. I lost faith in America when I witnessed George Floyd die. My cousins in America are terrified. They know that they can't have a bad day with the wrong officer. When I had an issue where I was forced to call the police, my hand stayed in the air until they left. I know that I'm a target. Regardless of what happens, I know I'm a target. I know there's a huge target on my back. It makes me upset, but it's the reality of life. We're the people who walk past our brothers and sisters hanging off trees because skinheads decided to do something. And now that I look at the Capitol Hill, I see that the police had the opportunity to properly handle situations of systemic racism that they fell short in. So when police officers are confused as to why black people don't trust the police, my question is how? How can you be confused? America was built off the backs of black people, and we're still being targeted.
Well said, man. Well said. I think that the most important thing for our white colleagues and our white peers to understand is that the things that you do in your everyday life, we no longer have the luxury of doing. So, Tamir Rice, who was shot and killed within 7 seconds of arriving on the scene, who was waving a toy gun, a green plastic gun, You guys can do that freely. We no longer can. We no longer can. Storming, protesting and rioting and storming the Capitol. We damn sure can't do that. It's it's so important. It's so important to understand where your peers come from, and the it's so important to recognize the the climate that they live in. And I find it funny that when George Floyd was murdered, it was the trend to post that black square. It was the trend to hashtag Black Lives Matter. It was the trend to talk about it and read about it and so on and so forth. But that conversation died real quick because it was a trend for other people. We need to differentiate and we need to recognize that for you, it's a trend, but for your black brothers and sisters, it's a way of life. That's real life for them. And I I know Mokhtar's brother personally. I know, like I said, I have a little brother, I have a little sister. Corbina has brothers, Perry has brothers. You know, I'm about to have a son. You know, future number one pick of the NBA draft while playing for Liverpool FC. It's it's gonna be tough for me to explain when he's going out with his friends, just doing kid shit. That when you encounter police officers, you gotta act different than James. You gotta act different than Billy. Billy can put his hands in his pocket. You can't.
Yo, Perry, you want to clarify something?
So one thing I do want to say is that I appreciate everybody who stands in solidarity with the cause. Obviously, I don't want to generalize, so I don't want to make it seem as though it is an us versus them. But I do want to say that there's always bad apples in a tree. There's always poison in the fruit, and to those who have stood by and supported and shown me love or continue to show their black counterparts or colored counterparts of any race love and stand for equality, I want to say I appreciate you. Bina, Mukhtar, oh, well, not Mukhtar, just kidding, Mukhtar. Bina, JLo, and even Mukhtar, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, even though I cheese you guys, I genuinely love you guys. And that's really from the heart. I think we need to try to come together and understand that it's not us trying to make some sort of war, but we're speaking of the realities of life. We're speaking of rappers getting crucified for speaking of things like this. We're speaking of politicians being silenced and suppressed for things of this nature. Tupac once said, instead of a war on poverty, they have a war on drugs so the police can bother me. And even the war on drugs wasn't necessarily a war on drugs. It was just a target towards those of color. So all I ask is that we look at the world and we decide. Like Tupac once said again, we're not going to heal unless we love each other and be real to each other. We're the most hated race, and people need to understand that we're all God's children. And even if you don't believe in God, we're all people. At the end of the day, we have thoughts, feelings, and we go through life. It just so happens that it's different, right? The experience is different for us, and we just so happen to have a lot of oppressive experiences that bond us together as brothers.